Ascenders Assemble. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the official podcast here. I am here with my guest, Baby Gold. In the camera, we also have Chyna, and we are very thankful to have this opportunity here at HGAB Studios. Baby Gold, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing? It's Friday, so I can't complain.
Oh, that too. Like, I feel really blessed. All of this, like I was telling Chyna before, like, all of this is really serendipitous, all of this coming together. So I'm very thankful for you being here. And that being said, tell us who you are, what you do.
Yeah, so my name's Baby Gold. I'm a musician here in South Florida. It's fairly new. I really started putting stuff out and, kind of branding myself as a musician only about a year ago, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, I'm super stoked to be here. I love having conversations with people about music, about kind of my background. To me, music is storytelling. So the more I can do that, the happier I am.
No, for sure. I definitely feel you with that. And I was going over through some notes. We're going to jump a little bit around your timeline as well. And you were talking about having an identity crisis. I would love to hear more about that because I know not just myself, but I know some of our listeners can definitely relate to that feeling. So what was it like what was the thing that set that in motion to have this identity crisis, and what were the solutions or the key pieces that unlocked you to be Baby Gold?
Definitely. So that was in 2023. So 2022, I was already kind of in a rough headspace, I would say, kind of trying to figure out why I'm not feeling fulfilled, why I'm not really reaching that happiness that I thought I would reach. I mean, I had the job, I had the nice apartment, I had the stuff where you had everything that you were supposed to have at that point, right? And it was just, I feel like I hit this wall and I was like, oh my God, like I have all these things and I just am not happy. I'm not fulfilled. I don't understand. I'm like, I have the friends, I have this, I have that. What is missing? And so I think it took like 6 months of just sitting with that. And I started going to therapy. I was like, I found a therapist and I was like, hey, like I don't even know what's wrong. Like I have everything that I thought I wanted, everything that was expected of me. I'm, my parents are proud, my friends are proud. Like it's just like, I don't know what's missing. I don't know why I'm so unhappy. And about like 6 months just working on it and trying to think, okay, is it this? Is it that? And let's say that was in October 2022. 2023 in January, I went on this kind of backpacking trip in Ecuador. And I think just kind of getting away from everybody and just giving myself kind of the space to breathe and just let kind of my brain unlearn all these sort of fight or flight techniques that it had, just because I'm in the environment where I grew up in, which is always tricky when you you leave, you go to college, and then you come back and it's like trying to mold yourself into this place where you grew up and there's already all these set expectations. And so I went on this trip to Ecuador, and I think just being able to create that space, I just learned a lot about myself, and I kind of reverted back to that childlike curiosity, which is incredible. Like being able to see yourself in that state where you're just in nature and you're just like playing with, I don't know, like little bugs you see or whatever, or you're jumping off ledges into bodies of water, right?
For
like
real.
The most childlike behaviors and the most childlike kind of games that you play with yourself, and you meet people and completely different people from all different parts of the world. Anyway, I'm rambling here, but
No, not at all. This is what we're here for,
Yeah, so just being able to get myself back to that sort of like inner child state is what I would call it. I just realized a lot of things that I wanted as a kid, or that I felt as a kid, that I kind of just like tossed under the rug because it was just like, nah, that's not going to work with what's expected. That's not going to work with, my vision, my family's vision, my community's vision, all these things. And so it kind of all started ironically. Towards the end of that trip, I was like, I want a tattoo. And which doesn't sound like such a big thing, but like, I come from like a Jewish community, like in Aventura and all these things where it's very, like tattoos aren't a thing.
Right.
But like as a kid, I always wanted a tattoo. So that was kind of like my hook into like this whole, it sounds like kind of stupid, like just a tattoo. But I was like, I want to get a tattoo. So I came back home, and then that kind of unraveled a bunch of other things about like kind of my sexuality also fits into that. We can talk about that too. But Basically that was the hook, right? Like I remember that growing up I wanted to be this like free spirited, like I always wanted kind of a tattoo. I always wanted sort of like to be more on this nature side of things, more on this free spirit side of things. And I don't know, just along the way I became this like type A corporate whatever, which there's nothing wrong with that, but it just felt like a misalignment. And so yeah, I came back home and I started kind of working on that, and I'll kind of let you chime in here and see what you think.
Honestly, like I could just listen to your story for like forever, honestly, because I relate so much to what you're talking about. I remember I grew up loving band, and I also relate to growing up in North Miami Beach. I was born here. My parents immigrated from their respective countries. My dad, Cuba, my mom, Guatemala, and we're built with this sense of like the American dream that we need to accomplish, which is why we think that we need to have this, that, and the third in order to be successful, in order to make sure that our family that worked so hard for us to be here to also kind of meet their needs. But within that, I love how you said it too. You're brushing your childness and that free spiritedness under the rug. But the funny thing about it is that the rug is still there, and that spirit is still there. So I think it's also important that you talked about just doing it. You have to, because if you're feeling miserable about whatever it is that you're doing, you just have to do it. I talked about this in my speech class at Palm Beach State College, and that is really important. Some people can take A, B, and C in order to think that they're going to be fulfilled, and they get there and they're not, you know? So for me, to kind of bounce off that energy, I had a very similar experience after my senior year of college. I was doing music education for so long, and then finally I was like, this isn't working. And I dropped out. I went home to live back with my parents, still supporting their business, which they've had running for 27, 28 years now. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be in the event industry, you know, so I'm very thankful for all of this. You know, that's how I'm able to have met you at, you know, Breaking Sound, and have met Chyna, you know, working with P on films. So, you know, it's all important that we go out and explore these things that we really want to film. So when I came back, and I also like that you brought up the tattoo. My first tattoo was from one of the bands that I marched at, and I was like, I don't want to be feeling like I'm branding myself by somebody else. I want my own identification. So I remember writing down my full name, and I was looking at it. I thought about all of the nicknames I had as a kid, and I was like, let me move this here, let me put that there, let me put a dot here, and that's where a.sen.d came from. And I was like, okay, let me tattoo that. I want to affirm this. This is me, you know. And as a.sen.d started continuing to be its own thing, I just kind of addressed myself as that. I remember I had this situation with my grandma, and you know, she is such a bright light, especially when, you know, I was younger. And the way that her relationship with my mom and my dad, and just seeing how free-spirited and wholehearted she is, you know. And she also, you know, grew up in Cuba. She had a pretty nice family, but, you know, the love of her life was on the other kind of side of the spectrum, you know what I mean? So as she's gotten older, I remember on Valentine's Day of 2023, I went to the nursing a clinic with her, and she was just crying because she couldn't understand why she became this vibrant woman to now this frail, vessel. And that really hurt, and I immediately had to walk outside, and that's when I made my first video. A.sen.d motivation, there's always going to be someone that loves you, and that's you. And from there, I was just like, I'm hooked. This is a.sen.d. Let me just keep making videos. And as I continued making videos, more opportunities started coming around. And I was also doing the corporate thing too. I was getting paid just as much as a teacher, you know, getting 40 grand at the farmer's dog type of deal. I was still living with my parents, but because of my tools and access, I was able to be a lot more creative. And that was also something that I was missing from my time at music school. Because a lot of the time we're being pushed to play the same things. Like we're playing covers. Like I don't want to grow up being in a cover band. No, I have to create my own thing, and I can only imagine you feel that way. However, you know, in a sense, like those are our teachers, in a sense. They help us find our creativity and how we want to express ourselves. But going back into it, I remember I found an opportunity when the summer was about to approach of 2023, and I was like, oh, travel opportunity, doing band in a group that I was usually doing. I'm not getting paid as much, you know, so let me just ask for some time off. beat around the bush for a whole week, and they finally told me I couldn't get that time off, and I was like, well, I quit right there on the spot. And they're like, oh, do you want to think about it? No, I've been thinking about being a free spirit and wanting to explore for so long. I do not want to be tied down by you. And I I went out and I got to see more of, the United States. I got to meet so many wonderful people. And don't get me wrong, we're always going to face those challenges. But damn, those are really strong tests to just build your character. So when I came back, more ideas just started flowing while I was over the summer. I'm over here working on logos, thinking of apparel, thinking of all of these ideas. And finally, we're here now. And so for that, I probably said this at the beginning, so, cut me off with the record, whatever. But thank you, not just to you, not just to Chyna, but to everybody that has been a part of this journey. Like, truly, we're all ascenders, and that's why we're here. And one thing I like to think of it when I think of this is the quote that the Buddha has is that we all have the Buddha within us. It's just up to us to find it. So for you, how did you find Baby Gold?
Yeah, so I came back from Ecuador, and I was just kind of like writing everything down, and I still work. I have like my corporate job, which I'm so grateful for it because it's the reason that I can do everything. And so yeah, eventually I would like to dip my feet more into the music world, but I'm just really lucky that I can really just everything I get from my corporate job just pour it into music and pour it into my passions. So I was working this job, and it's remote. And I started writing down like everything I was feeling, kind of like the whole idea of authenticity, and I have like precautionary measures, which is what I ended up writing that day. I remember I wrote it down on like a printer paper. And
pause real quick. Go check it out on Spotify, SoundCloud, everything. Okay. Anyway.
Thank you. So I looked down and I was like, oh my God, like I love these lyrics. I feel like they're so relatable. And it was really at the core, it's about authenticity. Like, if you look at the lyrics, it starts off with, I'm grieving the pieces I lost that were in my head, 100 versions of myself, and I left them for dead. Like, it's all about, like, kind of growing up and, like, shedding, like, different parts of yourself for, like, the sake of other people. And I remember I looked down and I was like, I need to get this out. Like, at that point, I had written music, I had written songs, but I had never gotten from, writing them to kind of having the chords on the guitar to having them produced. Like, that was something that I had tried to do before, and it never really went through. But I was like, okay, I need to make this public. Like, I need other people to have access to this song. And so from there, I like went through the right channels. My brother has a friend, Alejandro Purcell, who's also on Spotify, and he's great. And yeah, check him out. And he really helped me to like going from like, hey, I wrote this in my bedroom to, oh my God, it's out on Spotify and all streaming platforms.
Let's do a little clap for that, for real.
And so with that song, in the process of that, he at that time he was under kind of a stage name named Cliff Whitaker, and I kind of like the idea of having separate, like having a separate character. Mm-hmm. I don't know, I like that separation, and so I was like, okay, like I need to think of a name, I need to think of something, and I sat on it for like weeks while this song was in production, while the song was being built out, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what's my stage name? And I kind of had an idea. I wanted it to be like soft. I wanted it to feel kind of warm. I wanted it to feel very approachable, and kind of intimate. I didn't want it to feel intimidating, I guess. And so I like was leveraging ChatGPT. I was like, hey, I want this. This is my full name. Can you make something out of it that has 2 syllables, 3 syllables, whatever? And I'm like, give me 30 options. So like it would spit back options. I'm like, okay, I like these, give me more, like whatever. It was back and forth me and ChatGPT for like days, just like trial error. And like there were some areas that I liked. And then I was like, you know what, I need to take a break from it. And a couple days later, I was like falling asleep. You know that moment like right before you fall asleep when like you like disappear into the ether? Like right before, like the second before you fall asleep of like your awareness. And like right at that second, my like brain was like, oh my God, Baby Gold. And I was like, oh my God, Baby Gold. And I'm like, I'm already too far into like almost being asleep, but if I could just remember this tomorrow, that would be great. And the next day I woke up, I was like, oh my God, what was it? And then like at 4 p.m. I was like, oh yeah, it was Baby Gold. I love it.
And that's the rest is history, y'all.
Yeah. And that's kind of where we're at with that. But it's really been a journey, and I think one of the most important lessons that like I've learned through all this is nothing is based on like one big decision. Like nothing happens because of one thing. it's all just like culmination of little things before it. And everyone's like, oh, but that moment can change your life. And no, it can't. Like, the reason why you have that moment is because of the millions of other ones that came before it. And so I guess like in the beginning, I put a lot of pressure on myself to like, this song needs to be perfect, and this needs to be this, and this event needs to be the biggest, and this needs whatever. And it's like, no, it doesn't. It just needs to be. Like, it just needs to be, and then there needs to be something after that, and then there needs to be something after that, and one of those all together will get you to where you need to go. So just iterations and just fail faster, I think, are like the biggest lessons I've learned throughout all this. And just like, it's scary, especially because being an artist, I'm not the best singer, I'm not the best guitar player. I'm not like in a self-hate way. Like, I know I'm good, and I have my moments that are better than others, but objectively, like, I'm not vocally trained, I'm not musically trained. Like, I taught myself guitar and I taught myself to sing, basically. So just accepting where you're at, and just saying like, I'm gonna get better, and just kind of taking it from an iterative approach has just like helped me like in other areas of life too, of just like, you just need to do it. Like, it just needs to exist, and then something will exist after, and then something will exist after that.
I really like you said two things that really struck with me is failing faster. I love that, because a lot of the time, I was thinking about this today, is a lot of people are so afraid to fail. That's why they want to ensure that they get straight A's and they graduate and they do all these things in order to climb whatever ladder. But the truth is that that's the reason why we have this free spirit and this creative energy to do it. Because if we don't follow into that, or I should say it like this, people don't want to go there because they're afraid of the failing. It's like the usual thing that you see on the internet. Your first this is going to be bad. Your first this is going to be bad. That's how it is. But have fun at failing. That's even one of the videos I even did when I first was starting it. And another thing that you were talking about too, on top of the failing, I'm also closing my eyes so I can remember what the heck it was. Just doing it.
It just has to be, maybe.
Yes, that's what it was. Yeah, because I got reminded, and I also did this for another assignment at school. It's about Taoism, or for the people who aren't initiated, Taoism, by Lao Tzu. And literally the definition is to be. And that's what it is. You have to allow your energy to be. A lot of the time, we've been caged in these ideals of how we're supposed to live our lives that we then judge the being part. And I think it's so important that people just embrace that energy, that even if it does seem corny, strange, or whatever, I mean, Lil Yachty wouldn't be here if he didn't do what he did. Any artist, from Jean Baptiste, from a homie Swiftness, from all these other incredible artists, everybody in this room and this studio, we just allowed our creative energies to be. And one thing I also really want to touch on too, to kind of reflect, is when I dropped out, I had a friend of mine from high school and I went to college with as well. And he lived around the same neighborhood that we grew up in. I was like, yeah, let me just start hanging out with him. I don't really have many friends, especially after dropping out. And it's weird how also when you separate yourselves from certain things, those people show the real colors of like, yeah, we didn't give a shit. You know what I mean? But to the point. And we just started fucking around and making music. I remember he was playing some of his stuff because he told me that he produced. And I was like, yo, play me your stuff, man. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, let's start making something together. And slowly I just started going back to GarageBand. And what's so beautiful about that too, when I got the corporate job, is I remember going in middle school that we were given these laptops, and I remember the first thing I started using was GarageBand. And here we are using GarageBand years later, and we're making songs that excite us, Yeah. And now 4 years running, and with now a routine of really just allowing the creative energy to be, we now have a catalog that we can now look at. And we're like, all right, let's work on the mastering. Let's, focus on how we're going to put everything together. And it's just a really exciting position to be, because at first you just started with an idea, Yeah. And one thing I heard John Beats talk about, I'm probably saying it wrong, and I'm just slipping out of my mind, but he said, an idea is incomplete. And I love that, because we can have an idea, but kind of like with Baby Gold, if you would have just slept on and just not thought about it again, that idea would be dead. It would have been incomplete. But because you saw the potential and the being and the essence that was behind it, you were like, no, we're gonna keep making that go. And now going back to you, I shit you not. I listened to Strangers and I immediately fucking cried. Like, even just from the first couple of, bars that you had. And because it's so relatable. And I love that you also talked about it too on your Instagram, that a songwriter's objective is to capture this niche feeling and put it out in a way that just hits people. And I can definitely say that you're doing that. And, the credit to you, I know you're saying, objectively, yes. We may not be like X, Y, B, Z, but shit, we're doing it. And for some people, they look up to that. And, I just want to let you know that, you are an ascender. You are somebody who is inspiring people daily. And I got to remember for post production to add an applause after this section. But it's true, but I also love that you recognize that it's not coming from a place of self-hate. And I know we don't have much time, but I would really love for you to just kind of talk about that in a sense. Like, how do you face that challenge, that inner voice that's like trying to say, oh, but you're not this, that,
Yeah, I feel like it's hard. I mean, I feel like everyone, especially people that are on stage, struggle with it a lot. And I've spoken to my friends about it too. It's just when you are somebody that, you're trying something new, it's hard. Now imagine trying something new, and every milestone in that trying something new involves like almost 100 people looking at you, right? And it's like that's what a show is, right? A show is like a milestone in this process, and it literally you are choosing to, because no show is perfect, and especially when you're starting off, what I've learned is it's not going to, like, things will go wrong. You're going to forget lyrics. You're going to be off key. That's just a reality of being nervous and performing in front of people. And just accepting where I'm at, and that's okay. And kind of going back and saying, okay, like all these big people that I look up to, everyone has bad shows. And something that helps me a lot is I was thinking about it earlier this week, and I actually posted, I think, a story of the quote that it was, and I say quote, I wrote it, I came up with it, but
no, quote yourself,
But basically it said, if you were to eliminate every possibility of failure, you'd also eliminate every possibility of success.
I saw that, yeah, and I immediately screenshotted that, and that was something I wanted to talk to you about, so I'm really happy that you're talking about it. So give a little bit of backing behind that.
Yeah, so I'm like really hard on myself. Like my whole life, I was like, I need to be the best at the best at the best. Like, it's just, that's how I'm built. Like, I'm working on it, but that's how I'm built. And it's really hard to be a performer and have that mentality, because you're not just failing in private, you're failing in public over and over and over again. And there's this like term among creators called like cringe mountain, that when you start posting online, it is so cringe. Like inevitably, it is just like, that is just, you need to go over cringe mountain. That's what it's called. You need to climb cringe mountain. And so just really being like, you know what? Like, I am just showing up, and there's a creator that I do not remember the name, but she said something about 2024 that this year she is not going to be afraid to be seen failing. And to me, that was so powerful, because it's like, okay, people are going to see me fail. That's fine. But that means they're also, if I keep going, they're going to see me succeed, hopefully. And so the people that judge you for, there are critical points where obviously you don't want to fail, like if someone important or whatever it may be, and it's just about preparation. But if you know that you prepared the best you can and you gave it all you got, and for some reason it didn't work out, like I've had really bad shows, like I can't even watch the videos. I'm like, that is so off key, like the in-ears didn't work, or whatever the reason may be. But it's just about like, okay, this isn't to waste. This, now I learned something, and now the next time I'm going to be better, and I'm going to practice more, and I'm going to get the in-ears to be better, and I'm going to get the sound levels to be better, whatever. So I think a big part of it is just like accepting that you're going to fail. You are going to fail, and people are going to watch you fail, and the way that you make up for it is by succeeding eventually. So
I definitely want to add to that is the beautiful part about failing in public is that it shows a sense of bravery to the people that aren't coming at you with a sense of judgment, but with a sense of curiosity and appreciation and admiration. And those are the people that come up to you after the show and say, you did a great job, even if you felt like it was terrible. You know what I mean? It actually even reminded me, my senior year of high school, I was doing solo and ensemble competitions, and I loved the solo to death. I would practice this in my sleep. And the first portion of the competition, I got straight superior. So I was hyped. I was like, man, States is going to be cake. But then, all these challenges come around. I'm having the anxiety come up. I perform. I felt terrible. But the difference was that my dad was there. And this was the first time that he actually got to see me like one on one outside of like practicing at home. And I just remember I just remember when we were driving back home, he said, "Yo, I was watching other people performing and stuff, but there was something about you. The way that you move with your horn, the expression, the passion that you have. There was nothing like it. Granted, I may not be able to listen to that recording, but I knew that I had something, and I think that's what it's about. We have to really dig deep and find that piece of gold that's really within us. Yeah. And something that even kind of like clicked in my brain too is the sun is made of plasma, right? What is our blood made out of? Plasma. So remember that you're a star. Remember that you have a gravitational pull that is able to bring whole planets and different organisms and so much more around you. So never give up on that. And I love that you're doing that. And we're so honored to have you here. This is only going to be the first of many. So, Baby Gold, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. Is there anything last that you want to say to your fans, to anybody that's just seeing you for the first time?
Well, first, thank you. And thank you, Chyna, for for your time and effort. Honestly, like, just having the space to be able to talk means the world to me. And honestly, just to everyone that has kind of believed, I don't know which camera to look at.
Oh, I think it's one of these two.
Everyone that has believed in my music from the beginning. There are a few people who just it's incredible. They show up to every one of the shows. They respond, they comment, they like. So just a huge shout out to really everyone that believes in it. And if you like my music, it's never extra to tell me, because as a performer, like I said, it's hard to kind of put yourself out there, especially like on Instagram. I have people from like my life that I'm not very close to, and they're just like seeing me like bare bones with my like my music and all these like vulnerable things. So if you have a compliment, not just to me but to any artist, tell them. Like, I promise you, it's never extra, it's never weird, it's never too much. Tell them. It helps so much to hear what you guys think, and everyone that's been a fan, that's been following, that's been engaged, and that just connects to the music. It means the world to me when someone tells me, like when you told me I heard Strangers and I cried, I'm like, that is mind-blowing to me. That's something that was in my head, was externalized, and then you internalized it, and then you felt something. Like, that is just the most incredible thing about just this whole experience of being an artist.
It's magic.
Yeah, it's magic. It's magic. So just thank you. Honestly, I just have so much gratitude, and I just thank you. That's the biggest thing that comes to mind.
And shout out to y'all. And the last thing I want to say, because I know we might be over time, but I love that you also said it too. Tell them. I was talking to a friend of mine that I met last year during that summer tour, and we never know how long we're going to be with people. So it's really important that you go out and you tell those people, like whether it's family, whether it's your friends, people that you haven't talked to in a while, people you may feel guilty of whatever you may have left behind. It never hurts to just go out and say it, okay? Because you don't know how long you're going to have with them. That being said, before we go, how can everybody find you?
Yeah, of course. So I am on all platforms. The most important thing, if you can, baby space gold on Spotify. If you can give that a follow, that really helps a lot. Helps the Spotify algorithm, helps kind of show them that people are interested. Second, on Instagram, I'm at babygold.mp3. So you can go ahead and check me out. I post all kind of events that are coming up, new music, ways to connect with me. Instagram is usually the best one. TikTok, it will also be babygold.mp3. So you can check it out there as well. And yeah, my DMs are always open. If anyone wants to connect, any fellow artists want to work together, feel free to reach out. I love collaborating.
I'm very thankful for all of you for joining us, for being a part of it. This is only, again, the first of many. And Ascenders, thank you for assembling, and I wish you the best. Always ascend.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.